Hey, Frankie. Say hi to everybody. Morning, everybody. I hope you guys all had a good Christmas and a good Boxing Day. And for all those that were working, including one of my last shifts that I was on, thanks very much for working during the holidays. And now it's important that you guys all enjoy your time off and enjoy your time at home with families. Take it easy and enjoy New Year's that's coming up in just a few days. The last episode left you at a lead into today, which will be the fourth episode and final installment of the Echo 305 Era or story. And that'll be dealing with another one of my best friends and former partners, also known as the Kid, and respecting his privacy, of course, along with every other part of the story and every other person that I talk about. I don't name names, and but those that I'm talking about and many others will know who I'm talking about. Yeah, so for us, typically at WPS, every spring is transfer time for constables and whatnot, whether you're going to a new shift or a different division. But there's also another change that typically happens with every GP or general patrol shift every year. Most often, most bosses will switch things up, and so you'll get a new partner. And good things never last long enough. I've never had a partner quite like the one previous to working with the Kid, but the Kid was field trained on my shift by a classmate of mine, and we could tell right away that he was a real good sport, and a confident guy with good life experience, but no sense of self entitlement, and not cocky, but comfortable around the guys and gals on the shift, comfortable with assholes on the street, comfortable with talking to people, and that's sort of a rare thing in somebody, whether you're a recruit or still on probation. Um, and For us, the probation period was two years. I don't know if that's changed, but back then that's what it was. And yeah, so he had been, like I said, my previous partner and I had a fairly well known reputation for being productive shit disturbers, um, both in terms of being proactive and producing results that were sort of geared from my experience in Vice, and then passed down onto others. And so we were always getting into shit and doing traffic stops and getting in pursuits and stuff. And back then, things were still pretty liberal in terms of what you could get away with and how much fun you could have. And so I know that the Kid was, he was paying attention to that, and as were a lot of the junior people, some of the junior people on the shift, they noticed, and because we were having fun, and we were having a good time, and on a shift when you see that, it's infectious. You want to get in there, you want to get involved, you want to back up to see what 305 has, and what's going on. Look at all this shit and evidence that we have ever so neatly laid out on the table in the typing room. And when people take note of that, those that are interested in that kind of work, they want to get involved because they see that we're producing, but more importantly, we're fucking having fun, because it's fun to do more than just answer calls, and that is absolutely not the only thing that this job is about. And not everybody's a street cop or a drug cop. To me, there's a real distinctive difference between those things and investigative minded cops that sort of have a brain wired for MCU, major crimes type work, detective type work. There's not only are those jobs in those divisions ever so different in what their mandates are, But I think people with that kind of experience, when they get to uniform, it affects their style of work in uniform. And so the kid was really interested in what we were doing, and you know, that made me interested in working with him this spring, and it would have been the spring of 2008. And typically in April or May is when those transfers or partner changes happen. And so I thought, yeah, there's a guy that I could get along with really well, and work in a car with. And that's just, not only is that an important thing for bosses to understand instead of good shit in terms of good shift dynamics, but if you've got a crew that's happy, typically, if we're happy working together, typically they're productive and they don't complain. And um, most good bosses recognize that. Um, and so one day I'm coming out of the locker room, walking down the hallway in the old D3 building towards the back door, and there's this there's the kid, hands on his hips, and I I'll never forget exactly what he said, because it has stuck with me to this day, and it would just cemented the fact that I want to work with this guy. He just said, "Hey pops, when are we going to go out and get ourselves one of those drug arrests?" And I thought that was funny, because obviously I was older and looked older than him, and without he and I really having a personal relationship at that point, he felt fine with throwing that little shot out. But that, instinctively I knew, okay, all right, we're going to get along. And it was his indicator that he wanted to do this kind of stuff, and that we were going to have fun. So very thankfully, for me and him, our bosses wound up putting us together. And again, even though I was senior and established on the shift, um, I always approach the bosses with a list of 3 people. These are the ones I would like to work with. Never expect, just because you've been on for a long time or that you're good at being a street cop in uniform, that you should just get what you want. But obviously he was my first pick, and there were some others that I would have worked with. But you just approach them with that way, and you're flexible and not demanding, and that'll more than likely ensure your chances of getting the person that you want to work with. And so I wound up working with him, and it was just another instant click. Our personalities were, despite our obvious differences, we just clicked. And so I did very much the same thing with my previous partner, is when we set out on the road, whenever we had quiet moments or we had a call that we could hang on to just a little bit longer, I taught him how to hunt, and how to hunt assholes, how to hunt bad guys, what to look for, showed him the things that make a car dirty, why it's a good reason to run that plate, and then to build on that based on any information you get back, in terms of running the people in the car and who they might be associated to the owner and all that stuff. I started to teach them those simple basic things, and the things to look for in terms of manner of driving and lawful valid reasons under the HTA, the Highway Traffic Act. If you've got a lawful valid reason to make a stop, it doesn't have to end there. It doesn't always go somewhere else, somewhere that you would like it to go, but I taught them, you start with that thing, and then you look at the car, the people in it, who they may be to each other, and you take it from there. And whether or not it leads to an arrest, or whether or not it leads to good intelligence and documentation of such, that's, a lot of people don't recognize just how crucial that is, because while it may not get you on the sheets, it may not get you a gold star if you're looking to go somewhere, what it does at the very least, and I stress this every single time, was the next cops that are going to stop that car or stop that person, we're giving them the heads up, the extra, hey, pay attention and look at this, because it could be important from an officer safety perspective or from an investigative perspective. And I really drilled that into him. And I also made sure that he did a lot of these intelligent reports, typing them up. And in my humble opinion, that is one of the best ways to gain experience dealing with those individuals and to get your name out there. Because those things, those reports, always go somewhere else. Somebody else is always going to read them. And good people, good supervisors in other units, or good senior guys and gals in other units, will look at the names and the badge numbers and what they're putting in. And this fucking kid, he just got the hang of it right away. He was a real quick learner. And I could tell right then and there that he would go places one day, and that he would be better at things, certain things, than I was. And so that made me think about, it's not all about just creating another clone. It's not about just making another cop like me. Although there were certain habits that I had that I wanted to spread across the service and in greater numbers, because what that does is it creates more proactive cops. And, what a lot of leadership tend to forget, and what a lot of people don't realize, is you don't want us doing just the bare minimum, just taking calls for service. One of our core duties as cops is the prevention and detection and prevention of crime. And sorry, I leaned forward to emphasize that point there. So, because we shouldn't just be responding to things, we should be stopping them from happening. And so I really wanted him to pick up that good habit. But there were also things that I hadn't done in my career that I knew that he should have, and I wanted him to have them, to be better than me, to succeed. And one of those things was that before I got into the Vice unit, I didn't have any investigative experience, any detective experience. And there are really sort of a few different schools of thought. A lot of old school Vice guys will think that you don't need that when you're a drug cop, because you're going to have all the evidence you need. So who needs a confession, right? Your case will lead up to it and show that the guy you got in the box, why talk to him? Because you've got him dead to rights. But I think investigative experience in general, detective work, working on a file, putting the puzzle pieces together, whether you wind up going into sex crimes or child abuse or major crimes, what have you, if you have that experience before going into a specialty unit, it is going to make you better at that job. So I really tried to guide or direct his career in that direction. Trying to ensure that my bosses got him on certain investigative detective courses. And back then, we didn't just have, a central major crimes unit that looked after divisional investigative files. We had back offices. Every division had their own set of detectives. And I could see the way that the kid was comfortable talking with bad guys, speaking to victims, witnesses, taking statements. He just had the gift of the gab. He was real natural at it. And better than I was for the same amount of time that he had on the job, which was, I think, when we worked together, it was about 2 years. So, I did what I could to ensure that he got the training and education to get into the back office. And then because I saw that he was a good cop and very suitable candidate for further career development, you know, I vouched for him with the bosses of the back office. Now he earned that spot all on his own merit, based on who he was, how he was, and the work that he did. But senior guys and gals, when you see somebody that deserves it, that earns it through his work and has the right attitude, you put them in touch with the right people. You vouch for them with the right people. And lo and behold, of course, a couple of years later, I think, this kid got into the back office at a relatively junior stage. And I'm super happy about that, because that, combined with his own excellence, building that experience, it wasn't long after he'd been in the back office that OCU came a-calling, as did other units. He was someone that was actively sought out by specialty units, plainclothes units, because he was good, because he learned from someone who kind of knew what they were doing, and just bottom line, he did all the right things and putting his name out there. And that's something that later on in my career, that I've really developed a huge appreciation for, is somebody else's success, being a greater sense of accomplishment than your own. And I think he's probably he's one of the two best examples of people that I've worked with, and so I'm very proud of that. And we remained friends over the years. We stayed in touch and talked about things work-wise. And to this day, he's one of my best personal friends. And the next little bit is sort of difficult to talk about, because I'm going to fast forward a few years. In fact, up until the day of my collision, I was on my way in for day shift, the beat, and the kid was back in the North End again for another short stint, and he wound up getting assigned to go to the hospital, and it was actually another good friend of mine who was working the desk, the S1 position, sergeant, who ensured that the kid was assigned. And that just, it tells you a lot about the people that I am blessed to have in my life. They're looking out for me. The accident had already happened. I'd already been sent to the hospital. But my good friend had sent the kid. And I have a feeling that this episode's going to go a little bit longer than normal, because this is a significant thing to talk about. One of the things that cops do in terms of seeing the utter chaos and destruction of a person's physical body is in the recess room at HSC. We've all seen some fairly fucking horrible things in that room. Sorry. And so the kid arrived when they were working on me. Clothing cut off, blood everywhere, tubes going in and out, nurses and doctors, just a fucking shit show. Sorry. And that's a memory that has stuck with him and will stick with him forever. He had to eat that. and it doesn't go away. He spoke about that in his victim impact statement um, when we went to court for the asshole that hit me. At any rate, so you've got a very hard job to do, and he had a very, very hard job just witnessing all that, you know. And then he had a junior partner at the time that you know, he's got to make sure is also okay. And there's so much fucking shit that you got to take note of and be aware of and advise the bosses of. And then he took it upon himself to tell our divisional commander, who was also a lifelong personal friend of mine, to do the notification. I've done a lot of death notifications over my career, and missing person notifications, and serious injury, you know, collision notifications and stuff. But this kid took it as his job and told the inspector, well, probably asked him, you know, but told the inspector that Dan's wife is out of town and she doesn't know. This is a few hours into it, and the last thing that he wanted was for her to find out via social media, because the story was already getting out there, including my name. That's just the way fucking shit hits the fan. So he drove out of town to our campground and told my wife what had happened, and then brought her back. I want to say that's probably the hardest thing he's ever had to do in his career. And kid, I hope you're gonna watch this. I mean, I think you're gonna. I'm sure glad it was you, because that's tough. Telling a family member, telling a spouse, something like that, that's tough. Not knowing whether or not I was gonna make it, but accurately conveying information. Not saying too much, not hypothesizing, and not saying too little, so people are left wondering. But he was actually able to do that. And yeah, so that's good. So yeah, sorry about the flash forward and now the flashback. But I was so glad over the course of our time working together, which was just a little less than a year, because I wound up doing some field training during that time, that I recognized how important it was to develop somebody else along with, you know, myself. The rewards that that person gets, how good it feels personally, and the rewards that the service reaps or gains, because you've made somebody better than they already are. You know, so that's, I can't stress how important enough that is. And so yeah, so I, you know, good things never last once again. And I moved on to another unit after the kid and I worked together. But also, you know, he's done so much throughout his career, having sort of specialty positions within specialty units, teaching other people so much stuff about OMG and OCU work and street gang stuff, you know, both locally and internationally and across the country. You know, I can't celebrate the guy's body of work enough. But also, he just relatively recently got promoted, and I'm proud of my son, as it were. Just, yeah, so that's another example where I just was blessed to not just have a good partner, but have a good friend. So I think we'll end it here. Uh, I could ramble on and sing my song a little bit even further. Um, but you know, when you've got someone like that in your life, enjoy it and count your blessings. With New Year's coming up, I just want to remind all my brothers and sisters, and that's whether your stripe is red, yellow, gray, or no stripe at all, um, to enjoy your days off more than your days at work. But to also work hard, and every single time that you can, give it your all. Look after yourselves up here and in here, pointing at my chest. You get the idea. And if you're ever bothered by any of the fucking bullshit in the organization or any of the horrible shit that you see, don't fucking bottle it up. Talk to someone. Find the right person that you're comfortable with and deal with it, because that's what tough people do. So have good holidays, and remember that you are loved. You're not alone. Have a good day.